Welcome to the Mindful Haven podcast, which focuses on mental health issues parents and caregivers of children battling life-threatening illnesses and disabilities face. Today's episode, Strong on the Outside, Breaking Inside. These parents face a quiet mental health crisis. The constant stress, fear, and isolation can lead to anxiety, depression, PTSD, and burnout. While focused entirely on their child's survival, their own emotional well-being is often overlooked. Support systems tailored to these families are not just helpful, they're critical. So did you know that the National Institute of Health states that parents with a child battling a life-threatening illness or disability are 87.5% more likely to be at risk for PTSD? In addition to PTSD, there's some major mental health issues they also face, and those include chronic stress, anxiety disorders, depression, caregiver fatigue, guilt, social isolation, marital strain, and financial anxiety. It's unbelievable.
It's a lot.
It really is. So joining us today is Diana Gelfand, therapist and the founder of DLG Therapy, a virtual therapy practice supporting parents of children with medical needs, children and teens with medical conditions, and foster and adoptive families. Diana is a single parent to 3 children adopted through the foster care system, all with special needs and medical complexities. Diana brings deep empathy and lived experience to her work. Her professional background includes child welfare, pediatric medical social work, early intervention, and neurology. She specializes in helping caregivers manage grief, build coping skills, find moments of joy in the chaos of caregiving. Diana is passionate about holding space for families often overlooked by traditional mental health systems and helping clients feel seen, validated, and supported. Welcome, Diana.
Thank
oh my
you.
gosh. It is so great to finally meet you.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, we've been chatting, texting.
Yes.
Virtual everything. So
Yes.
Thanks for traveling up here from
Absolutely.
down south
Yes.
and dealing with all the traffic on the turnpike, which, that's right, it was closed.
It's closed. It was closed way long ago. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, we're so thrilled to have you here.
Thank you.
Why don't we start out? Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background?
Yes. So thank you so much again for having me. I was born in Chicago.
Ooh,
yes.
busy city.
And then after my master's, I spent several years in California, actually.
Oh, where?
Working at Los Angeles.
Oh, me too. Yeah. Palos Verdes and Santa Monica.
Yes. I miss the food. I love the food in California. I miss it. Yep.
Kind of the Tex-Mex type of
The
thing.
Mexican food, right? Breakfast, lunch, dinner. I could do it.
That's awesome.
Yes. And I did private and nonprofit foster care and adoption for many years. And then now, I can't believe, but it's been 13 years in Florida, all across the U.S., basically. And so I have made a home and a family and a life here. And when I got here, I started in early intervention for 0 to 3. And I thought, you know what? I could foster. I could help these babies in need. I could help these medical babies. And so I brought home my first little one, 5 months from the neonatal ICU. My first time ever parenting. Yeah, crazy. And we were living in the ICU for a long time after that, weeks, right? And so I became a medical mama very quickly, learning a whole different lifestyle. And I think once you learn that life, once you live it day in and day out, everything around you changes. Your friends, your family, the priorities of your day-to-day life, your village, everything takes a whole different turn. That as parents that had healthy kids, or maybe your first child that is special needs or with a medical condition, we really get thrown into it.
You do.
Yeah. So,
my background, I worked in the neonatal intensive care unit at St. Mary's, not clinical. I managed the practice.
Okay.
Yeah, for 17
so
years.
You know that neonatal. Yes.
Oh, that's tough.
Yes.
Good for you for adopting a child out of there. There's so many.
Yes, there are.
Especially with, medical needs.
Yes. And I felt like I don't ask, but I'm like, you know what? 8 months home with my first, let's bring home another one to help.
Oh my
And I
gosh.
told my agency, give me a few months. And they're like, oh, we have a 1-day-old. And I'm like, oh my God. Don't tell my parents, but I said yes. So I brought home a 2.5 days old from the NICU as well. And then fast forward a couple years later, I brought home another baby who, a little different scenario. He was unfortunately being starved. And he came to me at 11 o'clock at night in my patio and said, by an investigator, thank you so much. Good luck to you. Yeah. And here we are. I am single by choice of 3 amazing superhero adopted kids.
Oh.
So I have lived this life for many years as a result.
Right. So you said a few things that I thought were extremely interesting, because what you go through with your children is very similar to a lot of what the Chasing a Dream families go through.
Yes.
So a lot of the children that we take care of have lifelong disabilities.
Right.
It's not just an illness like, let's just say, cancer, where you have an end date, hopefully, 2 years, 3 years. Right. You're living this, and your tribe changes, right?
Yes,
like
absolutely.
As a single person, your life was a lot different before you brought home your first child, which it is to anybody. But adding on a medical condition just changes the whole dynamic.
Absolutely. And the trajectory of your whole entire life, to be honest with you, during, after, post, everything changes. And I think that's why, I'm 2.5 years into my private practice, and I opened it because as a medical parent, I found a gap in services. And that was that unless you are going through this journey, unless you are on this path, at no fault to anybody, you cannot understand this life. And so I found the need to open a practice as a medical parent, as a special needs parent to another one, and give these parents somewhere to feel safe and validated and go.
Absolutely. That's really wonderful what you're doing. So, talk about what specifically some of these families are going through. I know we, touched on financial issues, depression, isolation, alcoholism. Right. So, let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So, it's what they carry, right? And it's you as a parent, you see your child and you're like, you know what? Something's wrong. Something's wrong. So what happens? You go to a multitude of tests with your child. You get hospitalized. You're having anticipatory grief, like something is happening and you don't know what it is. You go through the stress and anxiety and the depression. And at some point, you say, please help me. Something is going on with your child. And I'm going to tell you that parents' gut is usually right. I'm a firm believer. Your gut is right. And at that point, you're handed a diagnosis, right, for your child. And there's really no time to process. There's just no time to have to get to do anything. Now you got to get to work. And so you're thrown into something that you weren't ready for. No time to prepare. And you have the feelings of that mental duress and that post-traumatic stress and acute stress. So as a parent, you put on many hats, right? You're now an advocate. You're a case manager. You're an insurance negotiator. You're a nurse to your own child, a teacher, a therapist, a researcher for treatment and cures per se. And at the bottom line, you're still that parent that is struggling with your own mental health because there's no time.
Right. So that's it. Time. There is no time.
No.
And what I've seen is there's a lot of services available for a child while they're in the hospital. Mm-hmm. But once they are either finished with their treatment or if it's a lifelong disability, there really are no services available. If you have insurance, you can get the, X amount of therapies.
Yes.
But what I've seen with the moms and dads is while they're going through this treatment, they're not focused on themselves, obviously. They're focused on their child.
There's no way. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Families are falling apart.
Yes.
You might have lost your home, your car, your job. Well,
right.
Yeah, right. One parent has lost their job.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so for years, you are focused on your child. And all of this, you're in fight or flight, right?
Yes. Every day.
Then it's over. If you're a child with, there is an end in sight. now you can breathe, right? So you exhale. And now the world, because you've been in fight or flight, now the world comes in on you, right?
Right.
And
Right.
that's when everything happens. And let's say you were getting services in the hospital or through any services council, you don't get those now.
Right.
Because the
You're on your
child's
own.
considered, okay, fine, child's cured.
Yeah.
But if it's a lifelong disability, still, there's nothing, right?
There's nothing.
And now you don't know what to do or where to go. And that's what I was seeing. Like at Chasing a Dream Foundation, we were seeing so many families breaking up, plus they'd lost their homes, cars, everything like that. But families were breaking up and the kids take their cues from the parents.
Right.
And the siblings are all, they've had such trauma.
Yes.
And now they're just floundering.
Right.
And really the depression, isolation, alcoholism, drug addiction, anything, the coping mechanisms don't work anymore, right?
Right.
And where do you go?
Where do you go? Yeah. And that's the thing is that we are, like you said, Lori, there's support in the hospital and then you're like, okay, see you later. And then you're left. You're left in isolation. You're left alone. You're afraid to reach out. You don't know how to reach out. You're left in the home where not only does your child who went through treatment, say, have trauma, but the rest of the siblings, your own other kids also have been through this trajectory of just very difficult situations. And then you as a parent, whether you're single and doing this on your own or with a spouse, you're projecting your feelings onto each other in front of the kids. You have no coping skills because you've been in this fight or flight. So for so long, you're really left just, what now? What now? You've lost yourself.
Right. And you probably don't have a support network anymore either, right?
You probably lost it, unfortunately, or it's changed, right? And so it's smaller or it's not reachable close to you physically. And, maybe it's a text, but your whole village, if you even have one, has changed or gone away because of the change in your life.
Right. And if you were getting support, let's say like financial support, and then that ends, now you've been accustomed to that and you're not.
Right.
You're not getting that anymore.
No.
It's a really vicious cycle that ends up, I think, taking people down this horrible spiral.
It is. And then it's hard to get out of that spiral, right? Because again, you don't have the financial support. You don't have the mental health support. You don't have that village that you had inpatient. The resources that your child received previously are no longer available. And so how now do you climb out of this hole? And that, leads into finding your identity again, right? Whether it's during the hospitalizations and the treatments or after, you really have to find yourself as a parent to get through these humps.
Right. Okay, so let's talk maybe about some things that parents can do. Like in your practice, what are some of the techniques that you talk to parents about? And I'm sure there's like breathing and tell us about that.
Yeah, so there's a multitude. I really like to meet the parent where they're at because every parent is going to be different. They cope differently. They're open to different things. So I really try to tune in as to what may help them, what may work, because we want, at the end of the day, for the parent to feel accomplished. We want something that's going to help them, not just something that like, okay, we'll try. We don't want any more failure or guilt or grief. We want something effective. And so, I could tell you, sometimes we think about our passions that we had at one time and are like, well, that's what I used to do. And I'm like, well, why not find it again? This week, between the session today and next week, you love to bake. I want you to bake a cake. I want you to bake a cake and find that moment of joy that you used to have.
Baby steps.
Absolutely. I don't want big jumps because we want to feel that we could do something and that we had success in it. So I really look for baby steps, right? Another parent, I remember talking about working out, that she hasn't worked out in 2 years because how can I find time for myself? How can I do that? I'm tired. My house is a mess. And so what I did, we literally wrote on a schedule, carved out 5 minutes twice a week to bring her bike and yoga classes out. And she was going to do it in her bedroom before bed. again, like you said, baby steps. We have to find other identities of just being a caregiver because it's burnout, right? And you're lost. You're alone. Part of the process too is grieving the old life.
That's really big. You look at life before diagnosis and life after. In your case, life before the children and life after, right?
Yeah.
So how do you find yourself? The baby steps for that for sure, but and that's really, really important because you were a person, you still are, but you put that on hold.
Right.
And I know there's guilt involved, right? I mean, I see that all the time with these moms, and I'm like, don't. Or with the dads, gosh, we lost our home, and they feel that somehow was their fault, and it's not.
It's not.
And they have a lot of guilt.
Right. I mean, again, it's being open to receiving the help and support and having that genuine conversation where we can be vulnerable and say, tell me everything you're feeling. Everything you're feeling. Yell at me if you have to. Cry with me if you have to. Therapy helps reconnect them, to that old life and also to that new life of accepting where they're at that current moment. So it's a journey. It's a spectrum. And sometimes we go back and then we go forward. And guess what? Then we go back and then we meet again. And it's even for me with my 3 children, I go back and forth of being angry because it's not fair that they can't meet the same milestones that other kids can meet, right? And then being grateful that they met a milestone that nobody thought they were going to meet and accepting them as they are every day because I have to be thankful and grateful for what I have in front of me and all the fight that they've given themselves, And so it really goes through everything you can think of. A lot of times people think of grief as just death, right? Yeah. But grief is not just death. It's not. It's a whole trajectory of all the stages. And like we just said, we can go back and forth. And grief is getting a diagnosis. Grief is realizing your children might be different than other children. Grief is maybe accepting that at some point our child might not be here any longer. And it's also the after effect of after a child passes, reimagining a life. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's one of the hardest thing. Like,
absolutely.
No parent should ever have to bury a child, but the reality is, that is happening. And, and we see that, but how do you go on from there? And so therapy, again, becomes something that is monumentally important to these families.
Yes.
And it's not available.
It's not available. And my goodness, again, when I found this gap in services as a parent myself, I'm like, this has to change. But you're up against a huge system, right? Like I am just me. But there's so many barriers, right? And so let's talk about
exactly. Let's talk about those.
Let's talk about them because it's really important to break down these barriers so that we can get these parents treatment.
Yes.
We can get them help. Insurance, right? So like you were saying, sure, the parent may have insurance, but A, they're limited to sessions. B, they're limited to location. C, there's a copay associated with potentially every visit. D, E, F, G, finding a provider, right? Finding a provider with lived experience or somebody that like you were in the NICU, so you have that background. It's finding someone they can relate to because these parents need someone that can understand their daily battle.
Exactly. That is a huge, huge part of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that I've spoken with several people and I don't think I would open up to, the majority of them. I know when we met, it was instantaneous. You have that trustworthy component to you and likability.
Right.
And you're currently providing counseling to several of our families, and they all say the same thing. And so that is important.
Right.
I mean, I remember trying counseling when I lived in California, and it was just, it didn't work. So
and that happens.
We may need to speak after this podcast.
We'll help you with a better fit.
Okay.
Fit is
maybe
all.
we can fart or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
So what do your tattoos mean? Let's
oh
do
gosh.
those tattoos.
Okay. So I never had a tattoo until I was a little older. For my birthday, I have a mom holding a baby with 3 hearts, and each one is one of my children. And then I have another tattoo that says fierce soul, kind heart, and strong mind. And I got this because sometimes as a parent, I need to be reminded about who I am or how I should act or what my life on a daily is. And so it gives me a little bit of reminders to say, you know what, Diana, you love deeply. You advocate, you're strong, you love hard, and just remember that on a daily when you're really struggling sometimes, because life as a special needs parent, life as a parent with children with medical complexities, life-threatening, it's not easy. It's not easy. And, we go back to talking about some of the barriers, and I could tell you, some of the barriers to our moms that we work with is that how do I even incorporate therapy in my life right now, right? And so I do virtual because convenience, right? And is it as good as face-to-face? Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes it's better, and the connection is better because it's about the client and what the client wants. But I'll tell you too, is because of what I do, I can have a mom sitting on the couch with her baby that needs a G-tube feeding right now, right? So we make it as convenient as possible so that they can still access services. And for moms, they're like, really? You'll meet with me at 9 p.m. after the babies go to bed?
Yeah.
Yes, I will. Because I know that lifestyle.
Right.
And it's important that your needs are still met no matter what your day looks like.
Exactly. And I think that's very important, especially like you said, their lives are not on a 9 to 5 whatsoever. They're in the medical appointments and the feedings and just the medicine in general.
Right.
So yeah, I think virtual for that is, and we live in a virtual world now, right?
We do.
Who would have ever envisioned this?
Right.
I think we're all blown away from that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So one of the things that I think with moms, I just went through this course, and I'll talk more about that in future podcasts. But one of the things that we did every day was gratitude, and not just gratitude. I'm glad I woke up and the sun's shining. Well, okay, yeah, of course that,
yes.
But to really do a deep dive into what you're grateful for, because you can wake up in the morning, and I'll look around my room and there's, my son's picture. And of course I'm, grateful for him. And there's, my dog is, on the other pillow, and, and I'm
Family
grateful
member.
for I know,
Absolutely.
Yeah. And there's those, but I learned how to stop for like 15 minutes, meditate, right?
Yes.
Before you even get out of bed. I do it before I get out of bed, because what's the first thing people do, right? They grab their phone, and it's the news and the text and everything. And now your mind's in 50 million places.
Correct.
But if you stay in gratitude, and you whether it's 5, 10, 15 minutes, whatever works for you, but do a deep dive on it, and even have a journal.
Yes, absolutely.
Right?
Yes,
so tell me about some of the practices that you believe in.
Yeah. So every client of mine, we make sure that we do micro moments of joy. And sometimes it's really important to find something joyous when you're going through it, right? And so actually my friend Bailey taught me this. And she said, you know what? Every day as special needs parents, we are going to keep a journal, a shared journal, and we are going to share our micro moments of joy. And I'm like, there's no way. And we have every day, we have to share our micro moments of joy. And so I brought that into practice because, again, we live in sorrow, we live in grief, we live in depression and post-traumatic stress. And so I really want to bring that out to show that there is something every day that we can recognize, and we explore that. Another thing we do is that we have a good moments jar. And no matter how bad or how difficult our day is, you have to find something to reflect on that day and put it in your jar, because it's hard. It makes us work.
Yeah.
But we need to work because we have to find those moments too in all of this.
Yes. We have one of our warriors, Jamie, and she had brain cancer, and she is just she's just this amazing, amazing young girl. And she gave me this jar, and she bedazzled it.
Of course,
so
you gotta have everything bedazzled.
Oh my God, it's so cool. It seriously is. And then on the outside, it had something attached, and it had these little slips of paper in there. I didn't know what it was. And she was like, once a week, you take out one of those pieces of paper and put in something that made you happy. And then on January 1st, you dump them all on the counter and you go back over your year and just see the happy.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, how cool is that?
That's super cool. And I love that. I absolutely love that. And I think the other side, and I remember in interaction is, we talk about happy and finding your moments of joy and reflection, but there's the other side of that therapy too is that, some are like, you're not going to change the outcome of my child's diagnosis. You're not going to, what is therapy going to do for me? And you know what my response is? You're right. I can't change it. But you know what? You can come in here and you could yell at me and you could cry and you could be angry and you could say whatever you want so that you feel validated in your emotions and in your feelings, because that's so important too, is that having that space, having that place. And that's just as important as having those micro moments of joy, because you can express everything you're feeling. And I remember a mom, she's like, I've never been to therapy. I'm not going to therapy. She used some choice words, which I don't know if I could use here. But I'm like, you're right.
Open.
Okay,
open
great. And she said it. She's like, F therapy, F you. And I'm like, you're right. F therapy, F you. And I effing can't change your child. But what I can do is sit with you for an hour and get all of that emotion out. And you know what? She's been with me a year and a half, and she has never missed a session.
Wow.
This resistant parent that has a terminally ill child.
Right.
And here we are saying never, never, never. So, I think giving the opportunity to these parents to get therapy, to have it available is it's critical. It's absolutely critical.
Oh, it absolutely is. And that's so much a part of what Mindful Haven is,
I'm
right?
so excited.
Yeah, because of seeing this and your experiences and everything, that with Chasing a Dream, we financially assist the family, but that only it's a Band-Aid, right?
Correct.
And although it's a Band-Aid that'll keep you in your home or food on your table and stuff like that, it's still a Band-Aid.
It is.
So when this ends or it continues, watching these families implode was just mind-blowing to me that they weren't going and doing anything about it. And then reality, they'd be like, well, what do you want me to do about it, Lori? And I was like, well, get therapy. Come on, doesn't everybody get therapy? And they were like, yeah, you can't, right? What?
Right.
$150, $200 an hour. Well, they're not going to do that.
Right.
And they don't have insurance, and their marriage is already breaking down. And they don't, like you said,
There's a million and one reasons why not to do therapy. And to add something to their plate, they're like, whoa.
Yeah. But the general consensus of so many of the parents that I've seen and spoken with is they want it because they know they've hit rock bottom. And I mean, and it's moms and dads alike, as you know.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's a really important, like you said, is the implode is that what does life look like after? Either after, the child is treated, after the child unfortunately passes, is that, like you said, what are the coping skills? And so taking a toolbox in my head, and I tell my clients this is we're going to build your coping toolbox, because life still goes on and you have to know how to deal with it. You have to know how to live day to day for your other children, for yourself. I mean, for yourself, you are just as important as anybody. And so really giving them the coping skills, the coping toolbox, and knowing that they can do this. They can do this.
How does exercise play into wellness?
Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm going to be admitting I hate exercise. However,
that's why I don't go to therapy.
Yeah. Same thing. Same difference, right? No, it's really important though. And even getting your heart rate up to walk,
nature,
right? Getting out of the house. There's something called, when I worked inpatient hospital and hospital psychosis, because you're in the walls of a hospital room for so long. Yoga, it doesn't have to be crazy exercise, go to the gym. It could be stretching. It's getting your heart rate moving. It's getting your body moving, getting your healthier, aspects of your mind going, because, we're so driven into what's going on is that we're not feeding it anything else. So exercise, nutrition, like a lot of our parents, are they eating during the day? Not all the time. No, because they're too worried about their child, and we worry and we put everybody else first. But if our cup isn't full, how are we taking care of our child? Right? If our needs aren't met, how are we going to take care of our sick child? And so all of those, exercising is important. I have a mom that walks while she talks, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, listen, this is a time I can get it in. Fine. No problem. She's moving.
Yeah.
She's moving.
Exactly. And what can they do in the hospital setting? Okay, you can walk the halls. You really, you can't do a lot. And that almost is something that if we could help them get that or build some sort of program that maybe doesn't wait until it's done.
Right.
Maybe there is something there that's part of Mindful Haven that could be a little, a gratitude journal,
yes.
Some sort of exercises that, walk around the hospital grounds. And I know you don't want to leave your child.
You don't want, yes,
So you're kind of stuck, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And so there are great ideas that you just mentioned. A is a journal. I always tell all my moms, all my dads, have a journal next to your bed. And in this day and age, like you talked about, have your phone and use the notes app and whatever it takes, journal. Right? Our thoughts. And sometimes, we don't sleep, journal it. Let's get it out of our head onto paper, onto our phone. And so having that at bedside in a hospital room is crucial. Having a short yoga mat. Give a mom a yoga mat, give a dad a yoga mat, and a little video from their, that they can even do on their phone. Yeah. Get some breathing work in.
Exactly.
Right? I'm excited because maybe, when we're building Mindful Haven is having a peer, dad to dad, a mom to mom. Yeah. I remember being in ICU. I thankfully had a village of people that would visit or bring me food, but it gets lonely. And again, all my village was amazing, but they weren't parents that could relate to my situation. And so matching our parents up with another parent going through it is I believe, life-changing as well.
Yeah, that's a great idea. You've got some really great ideas there that I think we should look into more as we're building this program of things that we can help. And that is the parent, we did the backpack for the kids, right?
But a backpack for a parent. Fuzzy socks, Lori, I am a lover of fuzzy socks and a soft blanket because we're sleeping on couches that are hard. We're sleeping with hospital blankets. Yep. Like we need to cater the parents just as much as we need to cater the children. We rely on some hospitals, we pay for our own food, right? And
that's huge.
I know. So, maybe a care package with some healthy options, granola bars, fruit, like things to, again, take care of the parent too, because you get run down. But if we can change the trajectory of some of this, my goodness, what are we looking at for a better mental health for the whole family?
Exactly. And mental health is such a huge issue, nationwide. But you look at this specific trauma of parents, or specific mental health issue for parents, I should say. And it all goes back. It's trauma, right?
It's trauma.
So trauma could be anything.
Absolutely.
It could be what our families, the parents are going through, but it could be, the child has trauma for sure, right?
Absolutely.
So I think if you look at the base of trauma here, and through that is how your practice, I would assume, is you're dealing with that trauma, right?
Absolutely.
And how to live with it through that trauma.
Right. And you make a great point. It's because, I'm just getting them at the point of they're in something. They're in something with their child. But guess what? They've had 20, 30 years of their own life. What happened before that? Because that also shapes how they're coping and dealing with life now. And I'll tell you, a lot of, my clients, a lot of people, a lot of parents, we have something before this that may impact how we are doing now as a parent to a child with a medical condition. And so we're not only talking about the trauma, like you said, now it's working through the trauma that maybe we didn't work through already. And now that's impeding what's going on a day-to-day basis. And what I loved and am still learning, and thank you for the opportunity, is, we look at post-traumatic stress disorder, but there's something called post-traumatic growth,
Yes.
which I'm learning about. So I'm not
so
quite there,
awesome.
but I'm excited for it because even as a parent, that again, still deals with things every day, the thought of transforming my own life to get to post-traumatic growth, reimagining my life in a different way, changing my thoughts, building my village, gosh, I've never heard of that until you introduced me. So there's more work to be done with these families that we can get to a place that is just a whole different avenue than we ever thought.
For sure. When I was introduced to post-traumatic growth, that's a whole, that just opens up possibilities, doesn't it?
Yes.
And we will be building a program based on post-traumatic growth. That's what Mindful Haven will be. I just went to a seminar. Well, I wouldn't even call it a seminar.
No. It was not.
That was a deep dive into
it was like a retreat. It was an intensive, self-reflection retreat. Sounds like Lori.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. And we will have a whole segment on that. But it was post-traumatic growth, and the program it's currently happening right now for first responders and veterans. And I was lucky enough to be invited to. That's lucky enough. I don't know. I don't think I've ever cried so much in my whole life.
Oh boy.
And yes, and you go back to your traumas that made you the person that you are today.
Right,
so I think therapy is so important because, especially for our families, because you have to deal with the trauma of your past, the trauma of the child's past and future.
Yes.
And where do you go from that? Because you're not going to be the same person. And you've got to grieve that person that was not the mom or the dad that they are today.
Right.
So that, in the growth part of that, I love the fact that it's not post-traumatic stress disorder, right?
Yes,
it's post-traumatic growth.
Yes. It's a positive, it's showing that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, right?
Yes.
There's options.
Yep. And it's hard to go through it because it's all disclosure. It's all personal reflection, and it's trauma. Mm-hmm. And we all have trauma.
All of us.
Unless you're I don't know, you've been living in the bubble.
I don't believe it. I'm sorry. I think everybody has to have trauma.
You have to, right?
No, right.
You do.
Right.
I think it's just the level of it and what coping mechanisms you were taught.
Absolutely.
I never did meditation or yoga. Well, I'm not big on yoga. I mean, I am. I just never, we won't talk about me. That's a whole other.
It shows that we all have different, outlets to use, and one is good not for the other. Yeah. It's finding what works for you. That's the bottom line.
Exactly. It could be paddleboarding. It could be walking. It could be music. It could be whatever works for you. For
absolutely.
Sure.
Yes.
So tell me some other ideas that you have for the patients and for Mindful Haven. And I put you on spot?
Yeah, absolutely. Hold on here. Let me think. Building a village of parents. I think, again, that village is more critical probably to anything else except therapy in your life as a medical parent.
Yeah.
It's finding another mom that
Human
can
touch.
understand. Yeah. Peer mentors almost, you think about mom to mom, dad to dad. So I would love to see, a support group. And again, in person and virtual, right? To have that human touch, to get that hug that sometimes you need, and to have it accessible on a virtual level. I think Lori and I have some planning to do, but a weekend retreat so that it's accessible. You're not taking off multiple days. Maybe there's childcare options, but 2 days of just, really going deep.
Yes, because you need that.
It
can't be a couple-hour seminar. It can't be even a day seminar because you've got to do the deep dive.
You got to do the hard work. Yeah, because otherwise it's not going to go anywhere.
Nope.
And you have to be wanting it and open to it. But I think there's a whole, avenue that hasn't really been explored for this, and that's why I'm really excited, because this is rare, but it's so critical. It's a safe space for these families. They're up against medical professionals, they're up against insurance companies. They just need people to relate to and to have an open, honest, validated conversation. Respite, that's a huge issue. A challenge is, nobody can take care of my child. I can't even go to the grocery store. And so maybe in the future, culture, even going to the grocery store could be a huge coping tool. Right? Going to Walmart, going to Publix, filling up your car with gas. If there's outlets for that, if there's resources for that, that's another huge, huge piece that I see is that I get no reprieve. I get no relief. I get no respite, and so that direction, just really taking care of themselves.
Yeah.
Self-care.
No, absolutely. And that's, with Chasing a Dream and the Mindful Haven program, well, any of our programs really, if you would like to get involved, just go on our website, chasinadream.org, and you can sign up to volunteer there. Perfect. Donate is huge. To build this program, we've set our goal at $500,000 to be able to get the facility that we need, be able to have the therapists we need, do the retreats we need. And they are crucial. And in order to do this, we definitely need you guys' support. But you had said, one of the things I really liked was give yourself permission to get help.
Yes.
And I think that's so important because I think we're afraid to take care of ourselves. And by the time we get to the end of this journey, we've forgotten, and it's like, I don't know. I don't know that I can give myself permission to feel or to break down, because now you look at me as one way and I'm afraid to break that glass because I think it'll shatter.
Yeah. And you've been like that for so long, right? In your child's journey. And again, what's our culture? There's just stigma to this still. But our culture is be strong. I can do it on my own. I can do this by myself. I can do it with no support. I just have to be strong. I can't show anything. But that's the opposite, because like you said, you're going to break. It's just a matter of time. And so let's do it a different way. Let's give you the tools that you can safely break. You can safely get all the support you deserve and you need and rebuild.
Yeah.
It's really, really crucial.
Yeah. No, I totally believe that. So what are some takeaways from today, which has been totally awesome? I'm just loving this conversation. I feel like it can go on forever.
Ever. So this is where my passion comes in. Because I love to drill this in, because again, I think I am a caregiver. I can relate, and I put so much pressure on myself. I don't give myself any grace, any compassion. I think it's so important. So you're going to hear me a little bit strong right now, but, you as a parent are worth the time. You are worth it. You are just as worth it as your child. I want you to know that you are worth it as a parent. No matter what diagnosis your child has, it's not your fault. You didn't cause this. You didn't create this. It's nothing you did. At any point, in utero, after, it doesn't matter. This is not your fault. It isn't. There's no way it can be your fault. And it's important to know that. I think this is my favorite statement to say it. And people are like, what do you mean? I'm like, it's okay not to be okay. You have to give yourself time to cry in the corner, cry in your bed, have a bad day. I think again, like you said, we try to be strong and put on this persona so much, and we're breaking in the inside, right? And so we have to give everybody permission to have time that they're just not okay, that they're in the grieving process. They're frustrated, they're angry, they're sad with what's going on with their child. And it's okay as long as we get out of that. Mm-hmm. Like I said, give yourself grace and compassion. You do more every single day than you'll ever acknowledge as a parent, especially because we just do. We do. Strong is reaching out for the help. That is being strong.
Yes, it is.
So it's important to know that. Strong is acknowledging what you do every minute of your day when a child has a life-threatening illness. It's hard. Acknowledge that.
Yeah.
Strong is seeking out the support as therapy, building this Mindful Haven. Strong is going to these offerings that Mindful Haven will have. There's space in this story. It's not just about your child. This is about you too. And you matter. Your life matters. It's just so important that you're part of this. And I guess lastly is that you don't have to carry this alone. I'm here. I see you. I hear you. I live it. Lori, Chasing a Dream is building a program that you will have a whole village to support you. You are absolutely not alone. And those are my passionate words, because I really, this is my passion, is these parents.
And you could see this as your passion. I mean, it's so amazing. I mean, people like you are amazing because you give the tools necessary so that, yeah, you can break. It's okay to break. And it's really, really important. And this program is so important because if we don't build this program, how are those families going to be okay? How are the children going to be okay going forward? Because if mom and dad aren't okay, then they're not okay. And it creates this cycle. And then there's, you're just having more generational anger and depression and drug addiction and alcoholism and everything like that. You have to break the cycle, but you have to do that through making yourself whole again. And even whole through disability, right? So it's not just let's say a cancer diagnosis that in 3 years now your trauma is here. And that is horrible, to say the least, what these families had gone through and are going through. But a family with a child with, let's say, heart disease or something, brain injuries. Oh my gosh. Right. Spinal cord injuries, genetic disorders, these horrible chromosomal seizure disorders. Right. I mean, this is their life. Right. And they're imploding. And I know them. I see them. I work with them every day. And that's so Mindful Haven is so incredibly important. Right. These families have to have that outlet. And I'm so excited that you're going to help us build this program. I'm excited for where it's going. I'm excited for what we can do. Absolutely. And hopefully with donations and grants that we're going to be writing, it's too important to just let it go. No. And it's not being done. No. And that's the sad part, right? It's not being done. No. And it's critical. Like, it's life altering. I promise you this will be life altering that you're building, because I can see it. I'm in it. I have worked with it. I absolutely have all the faith in this, because it is absolutely required for these families and deserved. Deserve. Like, it should be a requirement. This should be something that's just part of your journey with a child. And, my children don't have life-threatening illnesses right now, but I will tell you they have lifespan challenges. And so I will always have challenges, and they will always have day-to-day struggles. It will be a lifelong. So like you were saying, this isn't just a one-time thing. Yes. It alters you from the moment it starts and for the whole lifespan. And so it's really important that you have those tools and that support and that village. Yes, absolutely. So some of the things that Mindful Haven is going to be offering and building, we're going to have trauma-informed counseling and therapy, peer support groups like you were talking about. I think that's something we should do in person. I think we should do like group counseling stuff. Yeah. Mindfulness-based stress reduction. Huge. Yeah. And there's so many people in the community too. So if you've got like a yoga business, or you've got, meditations, or you've got a retreat that, you want to anything, we're open. Because we're going to do respite and restoration days for sure. Financial resource navigation, that in itself is huge, because you've got to get back on your feet financially. Right. Like you were talking about earlier, grief and anticipatory loss programs. Right. That's really, it's sad. It's a reality. It's necessary. It's truth. It's needed. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And then, some workshops and webinars. Like, we did a workshop. We did a 1-day workshop just to kind of kick this off. It was like October when we did it. And it was amazing. We had, we had 5 great speakers, and, we're going to do that every single year on the retreats and stuff. So, people ask, like, how can they help? Right. Yeah. So this is how you can help. You can volunteer your time to lead a yoga course for parents, right? You can,
if you're a breathwork worker, come in and help our parents get some strategies under their belt. This is a perfect opportunity to, be in your community, volunteering to help these families that are struggling. So you're asking how to help? This is it. We just told you how you can help.
That's right. That, and we need donations. That is the part of Locals Helping Locals. And that's what we built Chasing a Dream on, was local businesses, local people knowing the local children that need our help. So they're here, we're here, and then you guys can help us build this program. You can reach out to me anytime, Lori at chasinadream.org. I have Diana's information. If you have a child that's in need of our services, same thing, chasinadream.org. Go on there and fill out the paperwork. Send me an email, then we can talk about your child and the services that we have. But thank you, Diana, for coming in today. This has been so awesome.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Look, we did it.
You did it, guys.
The inaugural podcast. Oh my gosh, we did it. We broke the ice.
Yes, we did.
Thank you.
I'm very honored. Thank you so much for having me, Lori.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you to build this program with us. And thanks everybody for listening. Please share this with your friends, and we'd love to hear your ideas as well.
Absolutely.
But have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks.